Hi there, Sage Canaday of VO2 Max Productions here with another training talk. Today we're going to talk about one key parameter that I think links all events, your performance at all distances on all different terrains, whether you're a half mile, 800 meter runner, or you're training for a 100 mile ultra marathon race. Now before we get into the training talk, I want to thank you again for all the shares and subscriptions and for liking this video if you like this series. I know I've been a little bit off doing the training talk Thursdays. I try to upload at least one video every week, but I kind of got sidetracked with the whole training for an Olympic Trials qualifier series where I'm documenting my LA marathon training coming up here. But thanks again for commenting with the training talk topics. I want to continue this going on, and whichever comment below if you have any feedback or suggestions for a future topic, be sure to comment below and vote for the one that catches your eye as well, because that'll give me some reference to work off of in the future for future training talk topics on this channel. So thanks again for all the feedback and all the support. Now before we get into the secret parameter that I think is real key to transitioning up in distance or down in distance and running different surfaces, let me first define limiting factors in these different race distances, working from the shorter distances like a mile on a track up to ultra marathons in the mountains up to 100 miles. And it's really quite straightforward actually, this part. In the shorter events, whether you're running on a track for a mile or you're racing a 5K, 10K, half marathon on the road, the main limiting factor, all else aside, is lactic acid buildup. You're competing at an intensity that's higher than your lactate threshold. Obviously in the shorter events, the mile, it basically feels more like a sprint, and you're developing a lot of lactic acid, 800 meters as well. Really high concentration of lactic acid going anaerobic, burning sensation in the muscles. And even at a half marathon, as long as you're competing a half marathon probably under 2 hours, that's a limiting factor. And this is all else aside from massive dehydration or something like that, but it's the slow buildup of lactate, and you cross over your anaerobic threshold, your lactate threshold, about 85 to 88% of your maximum heart rate. Over time, that's going to develop too much lactate. You can't clear it fast enough. You're going to start having some positively charged hydrogen ions binding to that lactate, causing lactic acid, which will make your blood pH very acidic. And muscle fibers do not like working in an acidic environment, so you effectively get shut down, and it's that burning, death tasting, copper taste in your mouth, breathing really hard, going anaerobic feeling that we all get from racing those shorter distance efforts. And this is true up through half marathon. Now we go beyond the half marathon. Let's say we go up to the marathon, could be on the road. What's our limiting factor? And this is true also for ultra marathons. And it's going to be glycogen depletion usually. That's the thing, we hit the wall. A lot of times it happens to marathoners around mile 18 to mile 20. It could happen a little earlier, it could happen a little later, but it usually does happen. And you're fending off the wall. You're trying to make it through the whole marathon or ultra marathon without bonking epically and going hypoglycemic, getting your blood sugar dropping and losing that ability to really run fast and burn carbs basically, because you're out of them, and you try to take some in maybe through gels or through drink, but maybe you can't take in enough. And so if you're not burning fat very effectively, you need to burn carbs, high octane fuel, and that's a limiting factor. That's a limiting factor to your marathon performance. And same thing with ultras. It's a constant battle with taking in calories to be able to keep fueled to run at a certain intensity. And obviously with the longer events, the more extreme ultra events, say you're doing 100 miles in the mountains, there could be all sorts of other things that come into play. As well as if you're in adverse conditions, a really hot weather marathon, maybe you'll get dehydrated first before you hit the wall. Maybe you'll get a big electrolyte imbalance, or if you're doing an extreme mountain race, maybe you'll have structural fatigue, sheer muscle failure basically, muscle cramping, not from electrolyte imbalance, but from just the sheer pounding of a downhill. Or if you start the first 10K of the Boston Marathon way too fast, it's a big downhill, you could blow out your quads before you actually hit the wall. So there are those other factors, but all else aside, the limiting factors for the longer events are going to be the glycogen depletion and staying on top of that, and how you utilize fat as a fuel effectively. So we have these different limiting factors for these different events, and there's other parameters that we could use to measure to predict some performance, but there's one key element that kind of links it all together, one key term, and I'll tell you right now, this is the secret. It is running economy. And if you think of running economy, think of your body kind of like a car. Maybe you're a Mustang, maybe you're a Prius. But running economy is a lot like fuel economy in a car, or efficiency. And it's how well you how much oxygen you use to move your body weight a certain distance over a certain amount of time. And so it's how efficient, it's your efficiency basically with oxygen utilization. And usually we're working at fractions of your VO2 max because you're running at more of a sub-maximal speed. And running economy, I think, unites everything. And really variable running economy, I mean, it varies with speed, it varies with terrain, but being able to have efficient, good running economy at a wide range of speeds on variable terrain is really the key to transitioning between different events, whether you're in the sport of mountain ultra trail running or you run on the track and you run on the roads at different distances. So a lot of people might argue with me, and if you want to refute this, feel free to comment below with some studies. But you know, before people will be like, oh well, VO2 max is the most important determinant of things, and you know, VO2 max is a relatively good number. It's a good indicator, especially for shorter event success. Races up to about 10K. Obviously, having a high VO2 max is a huge advantage, or a high altitude race, maybe in the mountains, but it is just a number, and it's basically how much oxygen you could get to your muscles, milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute of exercise, and how fast that delivery system happens. So having a really high VO2 max definitely helps, but it is just something that is measured in the lab. And you see, you know, these crazy numbers from athletes, let's say like Lance Armstrong has a really high VO2 max. Well, it was measured on a bike. Does that mean he's going to be very efficient when he's running? No. Same thing with cross-country skiers. Very efficient, really high VO2 max when they're tested, but it depends how they're tested in the lab. Same thing with runners. You could be tested on a treadmill at incline, and maybe if you're a really good climber, you could be showing a real good VO2 max, but is that going to translate to flat track running speed if you have to race a 3K or 5K on the track? That's really kind of up in the air. So what I really liked with Jack Daniels, he's an exercise physiologist, not the whiskey guy. Jack Daniels, in his original running formula book, which I read like 16 years ago, he defines running economy, and he talks about how what really is important is running economy, but also what is important is what your actual velocity is at VO2 max, specific to the task at hand. So you could be a really good cyclist like Lance Armstrong, even doped up during the tour, but is he ever going to run under 2:30 in the marathon, even on EPO? Probably not. He didn't have that efficiency, he didn't have that flat VO2 max, velocity at VO2 max as a flat running speed. And what's determining that success? It's your running economy on that flat surface. Same thing with an amazing athlete like Kilian Jornet. Great mountain athlete, super fast on snow, loose rock, up and down technical trails on mountains. Has a real high VO2 max as well. Real high VO2 max doing a vertical K or something really intense, really good on skis. But does that necessarily translate to a flat road or track? Probably not. He really doesn't like the efficiency of that surface. And so when we look at running economy on variable terrain, we see that it does come down to muscle fiber characteristics, how much slow twitch to fast twitch muscle fiber ratio you naturally have genetically, but also how you've developed your musculature through specific training, whether you're a climber or you're used to rocky, technical, and even surfaces or running on snow or sand versus running flat and fast on a track or a road surface with good grip. And this comes down to elements of your running form, your footwear choices, and your body weight as well. So just to give you a couple other examples, let's use the miler to the marathon type of example. Say we have a guy, college runner, super fast. He's run under 4 minutes for the mile. Very good national class time, on the border of making the Olympic trials. He's run a sub 4 mile. Really efficient at running 60-second quarters. He could do that, 12 by 400, easy, all under 60. And he's pretty fast at sprinting as well. Fluid form, runs on his forefoot, midfoot landing. Super good on a track. Probably has a pretty high VO2 max. If he moves up to the 5K on the track, he could probably run pretty well. But then you take that athlete and try to move him up, make him do marathon training and move up to the marathon. And several things could happen. He could get injured, overuse injury, because he's not used to doing 20-mile long runs. He's used to doing fast runs at 5-minute mile pace, and he's more efficient doing that. His running economy at faster speeds relative to a guy that might only run 4:20 or 4:30 for the mile might suffer as the pace slows down. So you have your running economy at these different paces slower than your velocity at VO2 max, and depending on how efficient you are, depending on what your running economy curve looks like, it might change a lot. So we have this sub 4 miler. Maybe he can't run a great marathon because A, he'd get injured fast, or B, he's just not going to be very efficient at it. He's going to burn through all his glycogen and hit the wall really hard. But he's not suited for that event. You know, he's a miler. He's got a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers. Same thing if we take an athlete like that and try to put him in a ultra distance mountain race or an extreme mountain race with a bunch of sand and mud and technical rock. Maybe he's not going to be, his VO2 max, he can't really shine with that because he's not used to those neuromuscular patterns of navigating his feet around technical rock. He's not used to climbing up stairs, up 20% slope and power hiking. He's used to running 4-minute mile pace on a flat track. So phenomenal athlete, but maybe going to have trouble making that transition. And this works the other way around as well. A guy like me is not going to run under 4 minutes a mile on the track. No matter how hard I train, I don't have the fast twitch muscle fibers to do it. I'm not very efficient, even at VO2 max. My 5K time's a little weak compared to my marathon time, for example. And it works both ways, but it also works with specificity of training. How specific you could do with your training, you could change some characteristics and you could change your running economy to be more efficient at these different events, whether it's learning to climb better, learning to climb uphill more efficiently, developing your musculature in a way that you could climb better, or that you get used to running on sand or loose rock or technical terrain. And then also just developing your form over the years. You train specifically for the demands, for the running economy demands of a race, of a surface, of a distance, and that velocity, but you also become more efficient by building capillary beds, building your aerobic system, and fine-tuning your neuromuscular system so that you have better running form, you have more efficient running form. And that does come down to things like stride rate, your running cadence, and doing speed work, which is a huge thing for marathoners and ultramarathoners, to developing their efficiency and developing running economy at all sub-maximal paces. So you could run a lot more efficiently because you do speed training, because you did some hill sprints, or you actually do some VO2 max type of repetition work on the track. All of a sudden lactate threshold velocity becomes faster, all of a sudden your marathon pace becomes faster, and all of a sudden you just feel a lot more efficient running at all sub-maximal speeds of your velocity at VO2 max. And that is the key, that is the secret with running economy, developing your running economy at different speeds on variable terrain. And I think that is the true secret to success in making transitions between different events. But obviously there's a lot of variables going on at play here. So that's my rant for today. It was a little long-winded, but thanks again for tuning in to all these VO2 Max Productions training talks, and keep the discussion going below in the comments and future ideas for future training topics. And finally, I just wanted to add, Sandy and I did launch our new website, sagerunning.com, which we wanted to launch to empower athletes, and we provide a newsletter that you could subscribe to on there. Also, if you enter in your email address, there's a way to get a free training zone, key training zone PDF guideline that kind of illustrates different intensities and example workouts for you to do. There's training plans on there as well. But thanks again for all the support again and all the views, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And you could also check out, if you want to go into running form, good running form characteristics, you could check out Sandy and I did a video which I'll link to right there. Running form is a very important aspect of running economy, as well as building your aerobic system over the years, but a good way to start is to do that running form and then to look into getting some speed training cycled into your routine just for that super compensation, or developing a new stress, a new variable in your training where you become more efficient. And efficiency is really the key here. So that's my rant on running economy. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for more.